You wake up. Before your feet touch the floor, before you've said a single word today, a song is already playing in your head. Not the whole song, just a piece. The same 8 seconds, looping over and over. You didn't choose it. You didn't press play. It just started. And the strange part is this. You will spend the rest of your day trying to make it stop. But the real reason it's there is far stranger than you think. Most people call this a catchy song. Scientists call it something else. An earworm, involuntary musical imagery. A tiny uninvited concert that your brain is hosting without your permission. Almost everyone gets them. Some studies suggest 90% of people experience one at least once a week. Musicians get them more. People with obsessive tendencies get them worse. But nobody is fully immune. Why? To understand that, you have to stop thinking of your brain as a speaker. Think of it as a machine built to predict what happens next. That's its real job. Not just hearing, predicting. Every second of every day, your brain is guessing what sound, what image, what sensation is coming a moment before it arrives. This is how you catch a ball. This is how you finish someone's sentence in your head before they say the last word. And music is the perfect food for a prediction machine. Here's why. A song is not random. It's a pattern. A note leads to another note, which leads to another, and your brain learns that pattern almost instantly. Once it learns it, it wants to finish it. Researcher Elizabeth Margulis, who studies the psychology of musical repetition, has shown that repetition is not just a stylistic choice in music. It's the very thing that makes something feel like music at all. Her work suggests your brain treats a repeated phrase as more meaningful, more emotional, more memorable than a phrase heard only once. Repetition isn't decoration, it's the mechanism. So when a song loops in your head, it's not a glitch. It's your prediction machine doing exactly what it was built to do. It heard a pattern, it learned the pattern, and now it's replaying the pattern, trying to resolve it, trying to reach the ending it knows is coming. Except there's a problem. Your brain doesn't stop at the ending. It loops back to the beginning, again and again. Why does it get stuck specifically on the parts it does? In the early 2000s, marketing researcher James Kellaris at the University of Cincinnati ran a study asking people to describe the songs that got stuck in their heads most often. A pattern emerged. The songs weren't necessarily the ones people loved the most. They were the ones with a specific kind of structure, simple, repetitive melodies. Unexpected small variations, something just slightly unusual enough to surprise the brain, wrapped inside something familiar enough for the brain to predict. Kellaris called this a cognitive itch. Your brain feels a kind of irritation when a pattern is incomplete. And the only way to scratch that itch is to keep replaying it internally. Think about that. A cognitive itch, your brain, mid-melody, waiting for closure that never fully arrives. So it just replays the loop, hoping this time it will feel resolved. It rarely does. There's a name for the deeper mechanism behind this. Psychologists call it the Zeigarnik effect, named after Soviet psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik, who noticed something odd about waiters in a Vienna cafe nearly a century ago. Waiters could remember an entire complicated order in perfect detail right up until the moment the food was delivered. The instant the task was finished, the memory vanished almost completely. Unfinished tasks stay loud in the mind. Finished ones go quiet. A melody looping without resolution is, in a strange way, an unfinished order sitting on your mental counter, and your brain keeps circling back to it because it has not yet been delivered. Now, layer that onto how music itself is built. Most earworm-prone songs share a narrow set of features. A tempo close to the pace of a brisk walk. A melodic contour with small, easy leaps rather than wide, difficult ones. A repeated phrase that shows up early and often, so your brain locks onto it fast. This isn't a coincidence, and it isn't limited to pop songs either. Advertising jingles are built this way on purpose. So are national anthems, protest chants, and nursery rhymes. Anything designed to be remembered by a large number of people, quickly and without effort, tends to borrow the exact same structure your brain already prefers. Victoria Williamson, a psychologist at Goldsmiths, University of London, ran one of the largest diary studies on earworms, asking hundreds of people to log exactly when a song got stuck and what they were doing at the time. The findings were revealing. Earworms weren't random ambushes. They had triggers. Stress was one, boredom was another. Low mental workload, the state you're in when you're doing something automatic like showering, folding laundry, or walking without a destination, was one of the strongest predictors of all. Why? Because your brain hates an empty room. When your mind isn't fully occupied, it doesn't go quiet. It goes looking. It searches its own memory for something to fill the gap, and music, more than almost any other kind of memory, is stored in a way that's incredibly easy to retrieve. You don't need to consciously recall a melody. It surfaces on its own the moment your attention loosens its grip. This is why earworms hit hardest in the shower, on a walk, right before sleep. Your guard is down. Your prediction machine has room to wander, and it wanders straight into whatever pattern was most recently reinforced. Stress works almost the same way, just through a different door. A stressed brain isn't calm and idle, but it is often narrowed and repetitive in its thinking, cycling through the same worries the way it cycles through a melody. Williamson's data found that people under emotional strain reported earworms more often, and those earworms tended to last longer once they arrived. One theory is that a looping tune actually functions as a kind of low-effort emotional regulation, something familiar and predictable for an anxious mind to hold on to when everything else feels uncertain. In that light, the song stuck in your head during a stressful week isn't just noise. It might be your brain reaching for the closest thing to comfort it can find on short notice. There's also a strong social layer to all this that's easy to miss. You are far more likely to get a song stuck in your head if you've recently heard someone else humming it, seen it mentioned online, or noticed it playing in the background somewhere you weren't paying attention to. Mere exposure is often enough. You don't need to like a song or even consciously register hearing it for your brain to log the pattern and file it away for later. This is part of why certain songs seem to spread through offices, classrooms, and friend groups almost like a cold. One person hums 4 notes, and by the afternoon, 3 other people are stuck on the same loop, each one convinced the thought arrived entirely on its own. Which brings us to the twist, the thing most people get backwards. You assume the songs stuck in your head are the ones you love the most, but that's not quite it. It's the songs your brain has been exposed to the most recently, and the ones structured in a way your brain finds easiest to predict, but hardest to fully resolve. That's why a jingle you actively dislike can outlast a song you adore. Liking has very little to do with it. Predictability and incompleteness do almost everything. There's something almost unsettling in that. Your own mind, replaying a tune you didn't choose, from a source you can barely remember, simply because the pattern was catchy enough to be learned and incomplete enough to be unresolved. You are not really choosing what plays in your head. Your brain is running an automatic loop, searching for a closure it may never give itself. And here's where it gets even stranger. There's a known trick to stopping an earworm, and it isn't willpower. Trying to force a song out of your head almost always makes it louder, the same way trying not to think of a specific image makes that image impossible to ignore. What actually works, according to research on this exact effect, is finishing the song. Not out loud necessarily, but mentally playing it through to its actual ending. Give the pattern its resolution, and the itch more often than not stops. Alternatively, some studies suggest that replacing it with a different, equally catchy song can push the old one out, which is either good news or terrible news depending on how you feel about swapping one loop for another. Now think about your day. How many times has a random tune surfaced while you were doing something mindless? Brushing your teeth, waiting for a kettle to boil, standing in a queue with nothing to look at. In every one of those moments, your brain wasn't malfunctioning. It was doing precisely what evolution shaped it to do. Fill silence with pattern. Predict what comes next. Search memory for structure when the world outside offers none. There's something oddly human about that. Long before recorded music existed, before jingles, before playlists, your ancestors' brains were already wired this way, built to notice and repeat patterns because patterns in the natural world often meant something important. A repeated bird call, a rhythmic warning, A cadence in a chant passed from one generation to the next around a fire. The same neural machinery that once helped humans remember which sounds meant danger and which meant safety is the machinery now hijacked by a 3-minute pop song you heard once in a grocery store. You are not being haunted by a jingle. You are watching an ancient survival tool misfire on modern noise. So the next time a song loops in your head uninvited, notice what it's really telling you. It's telling you your mind had a gap, and it filled that gap the only way it knows how, with the most recent, most repetitive, most unresolved pattern it could find. It's not random. It's not annoying static. It's your brain quietly doing the job it has done since before language, before writing, before music even had a name. You wake up tomorrow. Before your feet touch the floor, before you've said a single word, a song will already be playing in your head. And this time, you'll know exactly why it's there. Not because you love it, not because it's stuck, but because somewhere in the last day or two, your brain heard a pattern it couldn't quite finish, and it has been trying, quietly and endlessly, to finish it ever since.